Have you ever needed to exactly match a reference color to a clip, like from your stills gallery, maybe to keep a blue sky consistent across the scene, or to match a brand color of a product like this Nintendo Switch? RGB, you can see the colors. Well, today I'd love to share with you a VFX color matching trick that you can do right inside the color page of DaVinci Resolve that uses the RGB channel viewers, bringing down just the red channel values until those blend instead of the scopes or just trusting our eyes that are constantly adjusting. Now, the reason this technique works so great is because our eyes, the way they're programmed, we can see differences in brightness a lot easier than we can see the differences in color. So, as crazy as this sounds, to remove the color from the color page viewer, let's check out the 3-dot options menu in the upper right of the viewer. This is our 3-dot option menu right up here where we can see show viewer channels. And if I wanted to come over here every single time, I could come over with my mouse and click G, which will show me the green channel. But if I want to see the red channel to make adjustments to just the red channel, I would have to come up here again every single time and click to change to just see the red channel. There's a better way. We can assign keyboard shortcuts to flick between the channels just like we do in Fusion, if you've done this in Fusion before. So to assign keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to go up to the DaVinci Resolve menu and keyboard customization. And then in the search bar, to find where these commands are, just come over here, start typing viewer channels. And once you start typing it, it'll limit the results. I can click on this right here and we see B for blue channel. And basically what I want to do is just make these the same as in Fusion. So to assign the keyboard shortcut, I'm going to click in this window, hit B. That'll assign the B key to see the blue channel in the color page. And then G is going to run into a problem. I'll hit G, but it's already set by default to create a flag on a clip. I don't use that feature a lot, so I'm going to go and assign it anyways. And then I will go back and remove that from my green flag keyboard customization. R, red, see the red channel, I'm going to hit R for that. And then the RGB channels is this weird combination of Shift and Command and 0. I'm never going to remember that, but I do know that C is color, and that's how it works in Fusion. So I'm going to come over here and hit the plus button, which allows me to assign a secondary keyboard shortcut to C for color. See how that works? I will go ahead and look for the flag keyboard shortcut where it says mark add flag, and I will just remove this. You could set this to an extra modifier, but for us today, I'm just going to remove it so that it's out of the way. I will hit save. It's going to prompt us to save this, and I'll call this color match. It could be whatever your custom key set is. And now when I come to this viewer, R, G, B, C, you can see I'm able to quickly tap between each color channel, which is going to be ideal for when we do color matching based off individual channels, and we'll be using the offset or printer light controls to do that next. Before we can use printer lights to adjust the color on this guy and this guy to match this guy, I need to pull a still reference so I can wipe to it, see it on screen at the same time. So the way you pull a still is just in the viewer, right click, say grab still. And now when I go to an image that I do want to adjust, let's say I want to adjust this Miami skyline, I double click the still and it creates this image wipe that you can click and drag to compare like an edge, so I can compare this pixel here on the left to the pixel on the right and get them into alignment. Now, when I talk about printer lights, essentially what that is if you take a look down here and you have your general lift, gamma, gain controls, to the right is offset. Offset is a powerful way to maintain all the contrast adjustments through all the tonal range. And you can see it here as well as just these RGB bars. The printer light commands that I'm going to turn on right now by going under the color menu, printer light hotkeys to turn these on. Essentially what this has just done, you'll see printer light has these numbers here. It's the numbers on a number pad of a keyboard, not the number row, a number pad that's off to the side. So this is one of the reasons I suggest you get a full-size keyboard. Not necessarily this one, but just any extra number pad would be really helpful, or like a Stream Deck. So you can use these buttons here to add just specific amounts of red or green or blue. And they're actually laid out really smartly. So if you just think in your head, RGB, that's actually 7, 8, 9 on the keypad. So 7, 8, 9, red, green, blue. And if you need more of it, it's the one above, and you need less of it, it's the one below. Those are the only ones you need to know. Yes, there are cyan, magenta, yellow, but those can all be derived by the negative values of the others. The other thing worth noting under the printer light hotkeys is there is also quarter printer lights available, and this is just a 25% adjustment to what these are doing here. So I will use these as well, which is just holding a modifier down And on a Mac, it's the Command key with that same button. So you'll see full printer lights, no Command key, quarter printer lights, use the Command key. Let's get to adjusting this thing right now, not waste any more time. Now the assumption here is you've already done some sort of a color correction to this to get it in a decent spot, and these are secondary adjustments that are going at the end of your node tree to just affect a certain part of the image, okay? So I'm gonna move my wipe here to the upper right. I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see really closely, just using the mouse wheel to scroll in. So our match to color is on the left, and what we want to change is on the right. And if I look quickly at the green channel to start, because green has the most luminance in the image, we'll always start with green. I need to bring this up. So 789 RGB, that means it's going to be 8. I need to push 8 to bring this up. 1 time, 2 time, hey, we're pretty close. It looks like I went too far a little bit, so I'll bring it back down by holding the Command modifier, and then the number underneath it will bring it down. So 8 brought it up, 5 will bring it back down, and that's not a bad spot. Now we move to another channel. I'm going to move to the red channel next because that carries the next most luminance in the image. And this one looks like it's a little bit too bright. So RGB, that's 7 is red. So down from there is 4 if I need to bring it down. And I'll start with the Command button to modify into quarter mount increments. And hey, that's not too bad with just one little click. And now we'll go to blue. B for blue. Blue needs to be turned up. That's going to be RGB. 9 is blue. Okay, this is always in order. I'm trying to get this in your mind. So I'm going to hit 9. We'll get that up to where they looks like they match. Hey, it looks like I maybe went too far, so I'll just bring down slightly with Command 6. Maybe just play around with it till it looks like the line over here kind of goes away. Blue's a little hard to tell on this one. Now I'm going to see how they compare by hitting the C button, look at color. And they're not too bad. Look at that. I'm going to hit Z to zoom out, and we're in a pretty good spot. I mean, this isn't super perfect, but maybe I could refine this a little bit more. I'll zoom in again, and we'll make a slight tweak if we need to. I'll hit G for green. That looks good. Red. Our red needs to be slightly adjusted, so I'll hit Command, and it looks like maybe if I go up a hair, that might do a little bit better. Now I hit C. There we go. I love that. That looks like a nice match. Z to fit. Command W turns off this image wipe, so if I don't want to see that anymore, or you could click the button. Either way, it's up to you. But now we need to isolate this. So these are all secondary adjustments. How do we isolate things? Magic masks, power windows, keys, that sort of stuff. For sky, with a skyline like this, an easy thing to do is just use a rectangle. So to do that, what I'll do is I'll come over to our power windows section and just use basically a square rectangle mask. I'll size it up real nice and big. And then I'm going to zoom out of my viewers just so I can drag things around if I need to. I can move the tilt. These are all controls that are available on the panels, but sometimes it's nice to just click in here. Like a lot of this stuff, you feel like you need special controls, special equipment to do this. You don't. You have all the tools that you need right in here. And so this is allowing us to just make an adjustment just on the sky area, but you'll notice I've actually just selected the area that's not the sky. And I do this a lot because if I'm changing a sky, there's not a lot of times there's stuff in the sky I can track. So you can quickly invert this as well. So I click this button, this is our highlight button. This is telling me the areas I'm actually affecting. It's not the right part of the image that I want to change. I want to fix the sky. All these windows have an invert button. Just click the invert button, it does the opposite of it. Click this again to get rid of that, and then I'll click over here to get rid of the power window, and I can turn that node on and off with Command D, enable, disable, or just click this button over here. And now if we reference our wipe again, we can see we've got a nice sky that's been replaced. This is all there is to it. I'm going to show you a couple more examples, but if you got it this far, you're done. Go make your creative work. I'm going to show you another sky technique, as well as a product here in the final section, because there's some little gotchas to doing products that there's an extra tool that Resolve has for this that I think is amazing. So I want to share that. But if you want to see the frame before and the frame after, another common trick is to bring to your first frame and then use the left and right arrows to sort of quickly switch. Do these match? Yeah, I would say they match. So let's go to the next one. So this next image here is in Tarrytown, New York, just down the road from me. And this guy here, if I double click my reference, is kind of smoggy and then it doesn't look that great. So we'll match this one in the same fashion, but I want to show a few more options as we go to this next example. One of those is I'm having a hard time getting a piece of sky that sort of matches because the clouds are getting away. And that's one thing that the stills have a reference scaling option that's unique to these. What I mean by that is just better to show you. So I'm going to come down here to the sizing palette, this guy right here. And under this, normally you use this for, like, for edit sizing or to do stabilization, all kinds of, not stabilization, but to reframe objects. But in this tab on the far right, there's a section that's just for reference sizing, okay, right there, reference sizing. What this allows you to do is you can basically change the way this still is overlaid on top of the image when we're in image wipe mode. So let's say I just want to flop or flip the reference image so that I can get a chunk of blue sky that kind of lines up in values that I want to match to. So by hitting this flop button, you can see we have all kinds of scaling options there as well. This is a nice way to see them side by side. Now, to match these up, we'll do like we did before. Just go to a new node at the end of your node tree. Again, we've sort of already done all of our primary grades up to this point. This is just a secondary isolated adjustment. On this one right here, I'm going to start like we did before. Start with G for green. And we can see we need to actually bring down our green value in our shot of Terrytown over here. And I'll do that with using the printer light keys over here. So green is the 8 key, and then to take away from green is going to be 5 below it. So just start taking away from green until those look like they match. And then I use the command, once I overshoot, to toggle back and forth till I feel like this line that's right over here is going away. Now I'm going to switch to the red channel. So actually, I hit 7 on accident when I was talking. Red channel is R, so now I'm looking at the red channel, and then 7 is going to be the key that adjusts it. It's clearly too bright in my image here compared to the reference, so I'm going to bring it down. To bring it down, it's the number underneath red, so 789, 4 is underneath it. Hopefully you can see over here on the keyboard. Bringing down just the red channel values until those blend and bleed together, right around there. And now I'll go to the blue channel finally. And those actually aren't too far out of whack. Maybe I'll just leave those alone and see what it looks like if I push C for color. And we're pretty close. Maybe I go back and see there is a little bit of a sort of a bluish, there is a difference. So I might play with blue just a little bit and revisit my green. And this happens sometimes, especially with, I've noticed with ASUS, I'm working with ASUS CCT color management turned on right now. I kind of have to go back and forth a little bit. So on this one, I might need to bring my green back down just a hair. I'll go back to red. So sometimes it's a game of balancing. It's a little bit C for color this time, and now it looks like I have a pretty bang on match between the two. Z to fit, Command W to get rid of our wipe. And on this one, I showed you before we had that nice power window that was like a rectangle. Well, the color page also has this type of power window down here, which is like a custom window, and it just lets you draw it out, like if you're doing a polygon shape on the Fusion page. So to use this one, you just click, and when you click, it just, you can make a custom shape however you want. So this begs for a custom shape because of the whole of the sky is not just a straight line or something. So you can get in here and be really precise. This is a YouTube tutorial, so I'm just going to quickly go around there and show you what it's done. I want to see just the selection that I've done. So again, up here in the upper left, we got highlight button, turn that on. I'm just selecting this area again, which is the opposite of the sky. So I want to hit this invert button. That's part of that shape that I drew. Now we're just selecting that. And the nice cheat when you're doing color grading is your masks don't have to be super perfect all the time. So you can come down here, soft one, just drag this, and it basically just, you can see it just feathered that out a little bit. And so if I want to see it without that highlight distracting element, I can click this highlight button or hit Shift H to get rid of that, as well as come down to my power window in the viewer, turn that off. And Command W is a way for us to open up our image wipe, and we can see we've successfully matched those skies on that image as well. Now, the really cool feature about this whole color matching technique, and the reason I've always used it for VFX, is if I need to match a specific color of a brand. So this Nintendo Switch was photographed. It has a very specific neon blue and a neon red at the end. And let's say the client comes to us and gives us this image that they have that's the exact colors of the product. And so we need to fix those. How are we going to do that? It's the same technique. We're going to use R, G, and B channels without actually looking at the color information to match. We just need to do this on multiple colors, so that's why I want to show the isolation technique as well as an extra plugin that the Resolve Studio version has that you should be aware of. So here's our reference image. Again, it's just on the timeline, so I can right-click to say grab a still. It's just a PNG. I'm going to come back over to our Nintendo Switch over here and start working on this. I'll add 2 new nodes. I'll do Option S will give us 1 new node. I'll call this one node label blue for the blue Joy-Con. I'll do another one after that and right click and say node label, and this one will be red for the red Joy-Con. And let's start with the blue channel, or the blue controller. There's one on the left here. I'm gonna hit, or double click, we'll just use the double click to load our reference over here. And you can see previously we had flopped our reference sizing. Left was right and right was left, so it's showing backwards here. But we can come back here and adjust it for this one as well, because the idea is I want to overlay the blue on the blue so I can match those. So come down here to sizing, I'll undo the flip, and sometimes it's actually useful if you want to adjust the zoom parameters down here as well as the pan so that you can get those in the exact same location, close enough at least so I can see here that this blue is kind of yellowish compared to this one. So let's start matching. I'm on my blue node, I'm going to hit G for green, and then we can see my green value is too high. So I'm going to start pulling that down with the number 5 key with Command to get it so that line, that invisible line there, starts to go away. R for red, my red value is too high, so I'm using 4 on printer lights to get that down in the right ballpark. B for blue, blue is too low, so I'm using 9 with Command to get those in alignment. Now if I check them all real quickly, red, green, blue, they all seem to match. I hit C. Now we have a dead-on match, just like that. So we've adjusted that blue value so that that totally matches. I'm going to hit Z to zoom out, Command W to get rid of the reference, and I need to isolate this. I'm going to go a little further on this one. We're going to isolate this one in 2 ways, once with a qualifier and once with the power window. You can do both in the same node. Let's check this out. So I'm going to right-click in the viewer over here. Sorry, I'm excited. I love sharing this because the first time I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to right-click in the node, say Add a Corrector, and you can actually pull multiple instances. That's the great thing about nodes, to create your image pipeline or however you want to process your image. So this time I'm actually pulling from the source image to do my qualification, to pull my key. On this node here, I'm going to choose my qualifier, and I'm going to choose the 3D qualifier because it's the easiest. I think this is a great qualifier tool. For someone that doesn't spend a ton of time in the color page but does a lot of visual effects, this gives me a pretty good selection of that area. When I release the mouse on that section there, I've lost what the output of this is. So I do want to come back up here in the top, hit this highlight button again, and this gives me an idea of what the part I'm making a selection of. In fact, if you want to see it in black and white mode, you can click this button here as well. Now, I want to restrict this so that I'm not picking up parts of the screen here or up there. So you can combine a qualifier with a power window when you're doing color matching secondary. So coming back over here, just like we did before, this custom curve right here, and I just can click around the area I want to keep. And again, you can invert these if you need to, but now I've just made a selection of that. Blue, just like in Fusion, taught a bunch of time, is your masks. And so I want to take the mask out of here, feed that into my blue correction, which is where I put my corrections, turn off the highlight, and if we turn off this blue adjustment, you'll see off and on, we've gotten rid of that blue cast just on that localized region. We'll do the same with the red over here. If we took a look at our reference still, the red is way off, and so that will need more adjustment, and this is something a client is probably going to ask for you to fix. Now you're going to know how to do that. I'm going to pan the reference over a little more this is the reference sizing tab. We'll lost control here of you can see this red side. I lit this with a tungsten light, so this got a different color on it. But Nintendo says we got to make this red, so let's make that red. So on a new node, I'm going to do a separate adjustment. So I've got a new node at the end over there. I'm going to hit my G for green viewer, and we're going to start using the printer lights just like we did before. Green needs to be brought down, so that's the 5 key. And back up. And let's focus in on a specific area using the mouse wheel and then to scroll in, and then middle mouse to pan around the image. I want to make these two so that it looks like they kind of bleed together right there. I'm going to go to the red channel. Red channel seems fine. Blue channel is maybe too dark, so I might bring that up just a hair. Nope, back down. Just so that kind of goes away. You can see the blue channel is always the noisiest. So red, green, blue. Now C for color. And now we've essentially matched those basic colors together. We're gonna go one step further with an effect after I isolate this. So stand by. The whole image looks totally screwed up, but we just need to isolate. So first thing I'll do, right click, add another node. So I'm gonna pull another key that's separate. This time I'll do the same sort of technique, qualifier, 3D key, and just make a selection of this area right here. And then highlight mode, we can see I'm getting some of the table down here, which is no good. I don't want that. So I'll go to the power window section, the curve tool, and this image is not moving, so I don't need to track this information. But if you did, you would need to track the power windows. And just like before, taking the mask output of here, sticking this into this node here that's controlling that red offset or printer light adjustment, we'll disable our window, and you can see a difference here, off and on. And then if we take a look here, now the client can say, oh yeah, those do match. And I'm not using my scopes down here at all. I'm not using a calibrated reference monitor. I'm just using that powerful feature of being able to view color channels individually to match one thing to another. One final thing I want to mention is sometimes a client might say, oh, I don't like that highlight that's there. I need to make these colors more uniform. Maybe there's something in the environment that bounced onto the object and reflected it, and we need to remove that a little bit. Well, I think this is in the Resolve Studio version, but there's another node in here. I'm going to Option S to add another one, and I'll call this one Compress. That is amazing, and it's under the effects category called the Color Compressor. And so it kind of does what it sounds like it would do. I'll drag that onto a new node, and then the idea of the way this works is you target a color that you want everything to be the same of or more similar. So let's say the client does not like this highlight here. They want that brought down. One way you can adjust this is to select the color that you do like. Let's say I like this color right here. You can see I've sampled that up here. And the reason this is showing a little bit different than it does in the viewers because I'm working with ACES CTT color management turned on. So it's looking at a flat S-Log footage. But with that selected, I'll just change compress luminance, and it's bringing the brightness values all closer together and sort of flattening that out. So that might be a good result. Now, you can see I've screwed up the whole image again, but we already have a key pulled for this. So what that means is this node over here that we had done the 3D key and that selection on, I can use that again in a new node. And this is what's so great about nodes. I can take this same mask output, feed this into the mask input of that color compression node, and then it's been isolated to just that region again. So if I turn this on and off, Command D, on and off, we brought all those colors or luminance values here to the same area. There's other controls to the color compressor, but this one just needed a little luminance fix, so there you go. If I hit RGB, you can see the colors, as well as take a look at the white between those two. We've got those all really, really closely in the same ballpark. Hey, welcome. I'm Chadwick. I love Resolve, and you watched to the end, so maybe you do too. And since there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.